People who have themselves during their adult life. What happened? Story 1. I went to take a and forgot to pull my pants down. I just sat down on the toilet and my pants, perfectly healthy, just distracted. Boxers kept it contained, I realized right away, so it was easy clean up, drop them in the trash and went commando the rest of the day. My pants stank, but at the time, I was working a job where it was okay to stink. Edit, thinking of being the 12th person to ask where I was working that it was okay to smell like. It takes less time to scroll down. Anyway, it was a fertilizer plant, in summer, surrounded by dead animals, chemicals, and various forms of industrial farm waste. You could take a full bath in human and smell better than anyone or anything there. Story 2. Got the flu, trusted A. It was like water coming out of my butthole. Then when I thought it was out of my system, farted again, and continued to pee out my butt. Edit, my highest upvoted comment, and all of my karma has come from a story about me shitting myself. We did it, Reddit. Story 3. So I was going through a phase where I was obsessed with pistachios. In about a week I must have gone through a good few 50 bags, just popping those suckers open and enjoying their salty goodness one after another. I loved those nuts and all was well. That was until Friday. I remember I'd just finished work, so I got a quick shower, changed into my lazy clothes and jumped into bed. I felt absolutely fine as I reached for my unopened bag of pistachios on the side and began to work my way through them. After a while though I began to feel some strange gurglings down below, the kind that are loud enough to interrupt the TV and make you wonder at how strange the human body is. Well, it was about to get stranger because my stomach had decided to make its discomfort known through a series of smells. Now I'm an adult, a grown man with a job and responsibilities, but it'll be damned if I don't still find farts funny, especially farts that smell so ungodly that you can kind of taste them on the air. I remember with each new toot there'd be a moment of silence as I waited for the warm, evil-smelling air to drift its way up to my nostrils before exclaiming something like "fucking, that's not right," and then hooting like an owl at my own foulness. Such fun, until it happened. The that we all fear, the one spoken about in hushed tones over campfires and in dark alleyways. I'm of course referring to the shart. It started like any other, the familiar pressure and heat. Like judging the foot pedals in an unfamiliar car, you need to test it slightly and see how much give there is. You push slightly, then a little more, then more still, then disaster. Apparently that innocent little had been carrying some illegal stowaways, not little individually wrapped parcels of joy, oh no. I'm talking a tide of what looked like deep green porridge. An unholy swamp of foul-smelling nut surprise had been sprayed out of me like the worst pebble dashing in the history of mankind. To this day I've never encountered a smell like it, half pistachio, half turd, all evil. That smell haunts my dreams. Needless to say I had another shower. Story 4. Had just left a girl's place after a night out. Was about 6 a.m., got in the car, started driving and was about 15 minutes from home. I shat myself uncontrollably about 5 minutes into the trip. It was like wearing a warm doughy slush pit. When I got home I ripped into the driveway, jumped out of the car and onto the grass, whipped my pants down and hosed my off. Anyone awake that early would have had a great show with their morning coffee. Story 5. Food poisoning, twice. Second time I threw up all over my wife on our way home from the restaurant. I turned to her to say honey I don't feel so well and wound up saying honey mgrol mahagagaga. I'm so sorry, somehow we're still together after that. She's the best. The shitting myself part came from throwing up so hard that it came out of the other end too. Story 6. I farted in the car on my way to work. I thought it felt weird, maybe a bit bubbly, but I figured it was because the heated seat was making my crack sweaty. I stopped at the drive-thru to get breakfast and felt something squishing between my butt cheeks when I leaned over to get my wallet. I remember the cashier at McDonald's asking me if I'm okay because I must have had a strange look on my face when I realized I pooped my pants. Fortunately, due to the type of work I did at the time, I had a change of clothes, a shower, and a washer-dryer at work. I was always the first one in, so nobody had any idea what happened. Edit. I worked in wastewater collections for Municipal Public Works Department. At the time of the incident, we had showers, laundry facilities because we got sewage on ourselves as part of our jobs. My poopy pants were not the worst thing that the work washer had ever seen. Story 7. How have I myself as an adult? Let me count the ways once I leaned too far forward to take the parking brake off of my truck myself, waddled into a gas station and cut my underwear off with a pocket knife, left them in the trash can, at work in my office, was taking a pee and trusted I shouldn't have. Cut my underwear off in the stall and just waked straight out of work to my vehicle and left. It was not the best day to wear gray pants, driving down the interstate, couldn't make it to the exit, started shitting myself, so I pulled over and made a run to the tree lean and finished my while holding onto a tree. Had to cut my underwear off and use them as toilet paper because in my haste I didn't grab napkins. When camping once, at 3 a.m. I was awoken by my body actively trying to itself, climbed out of the sleeping bag, ran to the closest tree while shitting myself, cut my underwear up to use as toilet paper because as I ran away, I didn't grab any. Walked back to camp naked, only wearing socks. It was 16 degrees. Moral of the story, kids. Always carry a pocket knife because you never know when you'll have to cut your underwear off at a gas station. Story 8. I had an MRI scan on my lower abdomen and the tracer fluid I had to drink made me myself on the way home. They did warn me, but I felt fine until it was too late. Story 9. I was at my grandma's house watching a movie next to her electric heater. I fainted due to the heat, and woke up to my grandma carrying me to the bathroom within my pants. God, I love that woman. Edit. Wow, okay, this blew up overnight. I was very sick at the time. It was also the middle of winter, so a few things played into why I fainted. Weird how this needed clearing up. I'm a woman, so no, she did not have to carry a grown man. No, she is not a weightlifter. She was able to put my arm around her and have me do that half-walking sort of carrying before I woke up. Yes, my parents taught me how to properly hydrate. Story 10. I was taking a drug test in the military. The observer normally just kind of stands behind you. But this dude was all up on my bladder kind of got shy, so I tried to force it out. I tried a little too hard and ended up sharting. It was enough that I felt it run down my leg. I had to play it cool and turn in my sample bottle and sign paperwork while covered in good times. Story 11. I used to live around 1 mile from a train station, and I had to run to catch a train for a job interview, so I was in my best suit, running for a train. When I needed to, never ever trust so I shart while running. I managed to catch the train and disposed of my shitty undercrackers in the train toilet. Got to my interview on time, in commando, didn't get the job. Story 12. Myself during family Christmas. I farted and didn't know I full on myself, sat in it for about an hour only to get up and realize my head sunk into the cushion. My mom called me an animal and I cried laughing. Hellish food poisoning. It came out black. Did you know that when you've been bleeding internally it doesn't make red but black, but once it gets in water, red leaks out from it rapidly? I didn't know that either. I wish I didn't have to find out. I was throwing up at the same time. Couldn't even stand up. Luckily I have the best boyfriend in the world, so it got cleaned up. But that wasn't the end of it. The reason I got food poisoning was that the stuff was tainted with Staphylococcus aureus. So in the days to follow, more than 40 skin ulcers developed all over my body. I almost died. Story 13. I'd been out of town for work, and the last night of the trip everyone went out and drank pretty heavily. The next day, I drove the 3 hours back home and felt just fine. Got home and was doing a little cleaning. While vacuuming my living room I rotated my shoulders and just straight up myself. No warning, no idea it was coming. The worst part, I could see the toilet from where I was standing. Story 14. Traveled with a friend to Thailand and got myself a pretty severe case of food poisoning. Someday we wanted to take the ferry to Koh Phangan and took the bus down there, which was an 8h ride. I slept on the way down not knowing what was yet to come. Woke up because I shat myself. Not hard, just a bit, so I went down to the bus toilet to look how much I failed. The loo was literally just a hole in the bus. I had to puke so hard I shat myself again. Later I found out it was such high-velocity puking I ripped my esophagus when I began puking blood while being on said ferry. I really thought that'd be the end of me and am going to die in the middle of nowhere without a phone. Almost passed out if it wasn't for my friend. Stayed the rest of the ferry trip on the toilet where I puked so hard I constantly couldn't control my sphincter. Had to stay 3 days in the hospital. Funny thing is I considered not buying a travel insurance at the beginning, but I did in the end. Cost me $17 and saved me a $3,000 hospital bill. Nice, 'twas a nice trip though. Edit holy that blew up heh. Now my top post is literally about me shitting myself. Well done. Story 15. 3 weeks after my first daughter was born both my wife and I got severely ill. I call it flu. I was running a 104-degree fever and I was kind of delirious. I really don't know what exactly was going on in my head, but when the hot diarrhea started running down my leg my mind snapped out of its haze and I realized what I had done. I stripped off the laden cloths and got them in the wash and cleaned 3D myself up. My wife never knew I myself mostly because 2 hours later I wet the bed. And she will never let me live it down. Story 16. Active labor. The body wants to expel anything in the colon, so I went before we left for the hospital. I guess I didn't get it all out. One really bad poo cramps on top of a contraction which also feels like a really bad poo cramps, and I decided it was time to waddle my happy into the bathroom to finish what ID started at home. I finished, baby came, much screaming, some sleep friends and family blah blah blah. My husband later told me that ID sharted at that moment, so he grabbed the paper towel thing they lay down on the beds, wadded it up and tossed it before anyone could see, and asked the nurse for a new one. ID pissed myself in front of him. At that point pregnancy is grand, so there was only a short moment of mortification. Come to think of it, I don't think I give him nearly as many blowjobs as he deserves. Story 17. Not sure if it counts. I was wearing a very comfortable pair of lace panties. I also had the flu, rushed to the toilet and pulled down my pants. Didn't realize until I went to wipe that I didn't pull down my underwear. Everything pretty much went straight through the underwear, I myself while sitting on the toilet. Story 18. In Afghanistan and accepted dinner with my interpreters. They had a drink made from goat curd, mint and something else. It was delicious. The next day I myself trying to reach the crappers. Half a day of pain. 3 months later we had dinner again. You better believe I drank that delicious toxic concoction again. I've searched Afghan restaurants for 7 years and still haven't found whatever that was. Story 19. I once worked at a Rue 21 where my boss said that if I ever shat my pants, I could go home. I asked, even if I did it on purpose, and he said that would be impressive and sure. So one day I didn't want to be there. I was tagging shirts in the back and took a moment to just stand there and tried my pants. I wanted to go home but my body wouldn't let me. It knew it was weird and gross to just stand there in my pants. I worked the whole shift. Story 20. I was on a class trip to Washington, D.C. in 8th grade. After taking us all to eat at a Roy Rogers fast food restaurant, the chaperones thought it would be a good idea to take everyone to a souvenir store out in the middle of nowhere. As I was browsing cheap models of the Washington Monument, I got the oh, no feeling in the pit of my stomach. I rushed to the counter to ask the only employee at the store where the bathroom is. As luck would have it, he spoke little to no English, but knew enough to say no bathroom, no bathroom. I panic and walk outside and see the bus driver standing there, starting to sweat. I ask if I can use the bus bathroom, number 1 or number 2, he says. Number 2, I say quietly. He proceeds to tell me that, yes, I can use the bathroom, but they will then have to go out of their way to empty the toilet tank when I'm done. I do my best to hold it, but after what seemed like no time at all, the floodgates started to open. There I am, a chubby 14-year-old kid in blue corduroy shorts with a trail of diarrhea most foul running down my leg. At that point, one of the popular girls looks over and says you've got something running down your leg. I abandon all pretense and run to the bus while yelling I'm sick, I'm sick. Of course the bathroom is at the back of the bus, so as I'm making my way to the bathroom, in leaving a trail of down the aisle, I proceed to completely wreck this bathroom, using all available toilet paper and every paper towel. Eventually all of the other kids get on and we depart that godforsaken place. But I stay quiet in the bathroom until I hear the bus stop and everyone get off. One of the chaperones knocks on the door and says that they can take me back to the hotel and get the bus cleaned up. So I shower, get changed, and for some reason, decide to wrap the blue corduroy shorts in multiple plastic bags and pack it deep in my suitcase. We head back to join the group, and as I depart the bus, the first person I see asks me how many times I threw up in the bathroom. Apparently everyone thought I was violently ill and not just shitting my pants. Everything worked out better than expected, except I had throw away that suitcase and all of the clothes when I got home was ruined. TLDR, my pants on a school trip in front of popular girls. Everyone thought I was violently ill, but I really just my pants. I drank way too much coffee before going to a yoga class with my sister one morning. Afterwards we went out for breakfast at a diner and consumed some seriously greasy food and even more coffee. About an hour later I'm browsing at a craft store and the perfect storm of coffee, greasy, and relaxed muscles hits. While standing in the beading aisle, I let what I thought was only going to be loose. It was not it was hot liquid. I tied my jacket around my waist and but clenched shuffled out the door. The whole drive home I wondered if a human being could actually die of embarrassment. Fortunately, by the time I got home I was giggling like a madwoman. While cleaning myself up at home I kept cracking up laughing and realized things could have been way worse, and now I have a hey, I myself in public 2 story. Story 21, beer and hot wing farts. Was ripping them out at work the next day. The last one was nada, but I had already applied too much pressure. There was so much that it even came out of my shorts and hit the floor. The best part was walking up to my boss to say just myself, need to go home and clean up. Story 22, I am 3 hours late, but this was my time to shine, copied and pasted because I've posted it before. I am super antisocial and my roommate's parents, who I had never met, were visiting. I was at a friend's house and wasn't feeling well, so I went home. Thankful that no one was currently home, I quickly took a shower and headed straight to bed. Had to be up early in the morning anyways, plus my stomach was really starting to ache, so I figured that was a good enough excuse not to stick around to meet the fam. Maybe you wouldn't normally, but roommate is a social butterfly type, so I felt like it was expected I would say hi at some point. As I'm laying there in bed my stomach starts aching more and more until finally the gas starts coming out. Nothing too stinky, but I hear my roommate come home with his parents and start chatting. So now I am pretending to be asleep already so that they won't bother me, but in doing so I lock myself into a commitment of not going to the bathroom. I keep letting the flatulence rip, but nothing seems to be enough to relieve the pain in my lower stomach. I toss and turn but try to get some sleep and just sleep it off. While in that pseudo-sleep in between phase of falling asleep, I start to notice that my farts are starting to get a little risky. But the pain in my stomach must have been overriding the feeling of needing to take a, because I didn't feel like I needed to go, just that I might want to be a little more careful about letting my farts rip haphazardly. At trying to sleep it off in, and I was just tossing and turning in a very restless sleep. Every time I would slightly wake up and think about sneaking to the bathroom, I would hear them talking, wonder what time it was, and roll over and go back to sleep. Suddenly, I woke up in a sweat, with the urge to take a right now overcoming me. I thought I could hold it till I got a robe on and went to the bathroom, but it was coming with such urgency that I started shaking trying to clench it back. Within a matter of a couple seconds the sensation of dread washed over me, as I realized there was no way I was going to make it. I slid off my bed as the stinkiest, most fluid and explosive diarrhea erupted from me and onto the floor in my room. Once the waterfall started I couldn't stop it, so I just tried to squat and stay upright to aim it down and concentrate it to one area as best as I could. Luckily my room has hardwood floors, but still, it splashed everywhere on the floor and I just stood there for a moment, still waking up and trying to process what just happened. Sure enough, I could hear them still talking in the living room right outside my door. There would be no way to make it to the bathroom unnoticed, and there was a bunch of smelly goopy running down both my legs. Eventually I scooted over and grabbed the baby wipes off my bed, good for cleanup after, and was able to wipe myself off, but the problem of the gallon or so of runny diarrhea all over my floor was too big a problem for a tiny box of baby wipes. Able to move between the splatter spots on the floor now though. I went over to my closet trying to figure out what I could use to mop all this up. I didn't want to use towels because I wasn't sure I could get it all up with just those. Luckily I had trash bags in my closet, so I pulled one out, and as I did I saw a handmade quilt in the corner of my closet. This was not made by anyone I knew. It was supposed to be left behind in the last place I rented as it belonged to the homeowners who I sort of know, but the movers didn't know that, so they packed it away and I had meant to return it. Without any other options, I picked up the quilt and began mutilating it with scissors into smaller pieces that I could use to soak up as much as possible and then just toss into the trash bag. It worked like a charm, and I used the remaining baby wipes to spot clean as much as possible. I closed the trash bag tight, opened a window, turned the fan on high, called off work for the next day and waiting until my roommate went to bed. After that I was able to make a trip to the bathroom and grab some Clorox wipes, clean up everything till it was spotless and toss it all out in the trash, which was conveniently coming in the morning, so the trash cans did not have to sit with a bag full of my stained quilt in it for more than a few hours. I worried that the smell would permeate through the ventilation since I can smell it when the neighbor smokes his weed, but I stayed silent and prayed the smell would exit the window before any questions got raised. The next day I feigned illness so I could get some sleep and recover mentally from the first time in my life that I ever could not control my own bowels, but the other unused half of the ravaged handmade quilt is still laying on my floor, and every day that I've come home this week, it served as a reminder of the shittiest thing I've ever done. TLDR, on my own floor and use someone else's family heirloom to clean up the diarrhea and throw it away so I wouldn't have to use my own stuff. All because I am too socially anxious to get up and go to the bathroom in my own apartment if it means possibly speaking to people I don't know. Just for shits and giggles I am going to repost this story of me shitting my pants because some copied and pasted it from a comment I made on a post asking the same thing a year ago. Plagiarist. I was pregnant, around 4 months along. Every day I would take my dog for a long morning walk. About halfway through I realized I needed to and had better turn around and head back home. I was confident that I could walk the 1.5 miles back to my house because I was a poo-holding superhero. I had gone longer than that after getting drunk, eating a burrito the size of a baby and snorting 2 huge lines of coke. Thing is, pooping and peeing after your first trimester happens in ways that you are no longer in control of. The last 4 blocks were, I was dragging my dog doing yoga breathing and clenching my butt cheeks together so tightly I was walking like I was wearing leg braces. I walked to my door, threw it opened and told my so to get out of the way. He blocked me like a linebacker and said, "Does my honey bunny have to take a big dumpy wumpy?" Then he gave me a squeeze and a tickle, and I exploded into my yoga pants and started crying. It took me days to forgive him. Story 23. I was driving in my car and I thought I was going to. Sure enough, it wasn't I just started laughing in disbelief as I continued driving. I had made it from kindergarten to 26 years old without shitting my pants. But it finally happened. We were probably talking like a wiper for reference on this scale. Story 24. Maybe not adult but young adult, late teen 17. The events that lead up to that moment are important. 1. I was cutting weight for a wrestling tournament. Cutting a lot of weight, so my stomach was not the happiest organ on this day. 2. I had gotten the flu the day before and was having some problems throughout the day. 3. For some reason my school had white singlets that we wore in the finals. Now that the stage is set, I made the finals and then the wrestling began. I was killing it. I was up 8-0 with about 30 seconds left. I had wrestled terrible all day, but now I was hitting my stride. My opponent takes a high crotch, an attempt to grab my leg, but instead he uppercuts me in the crotch. I feel the liquid begin to seep. I can't just run off, I would lose. I'm trapped in this poo singlet for another 25 seconds. The longest 25 seconds of my life to that point. My parents just start laughing. Everyone is laughing. The black streak that has begun to spread down my backside is becoming more and more defined. It spreads like the plague. Time expires. I sprint to shake hands. Before the ref even touches me, I raise my own hand and sprint to the showers. I wash off in scalding hot water. My dad comes into the locker trying not to laugh as he asks if I'm alright. I am not. I don't know how I went back out in front of that crowd. The crowd that just watched me make Black Duke Nukems in my white singlet. Some friends and family still bring it up to this day. Story 25. I've told this story before, but I was in high school on a school road trip. We were traveling for 18 hours. While we were there, I ate a sketchy hamburger but couldn't afford anything else. On the way home, I woke up at 3 in the morning needing to throw up bad. There was no way I could make it to the bathroom because there were people on the floor everywhere. I dumped out my stuff from my bag and threw up, constantly. I had to stay on the back of the bus while everyone else was in the front. I had to this entire time, but I wasn't going to do that to my friends and the bus driver. Also didn't want to embarrass myself. We get home finally, and my mom picks me up. Finally back at the house I was able to and vomit simultaneously. I couldn't even sleep because I was constantly doing one or the other or both, so my mom gave me some pills, not sure what they were, but they knocked me out cold. I woke up a few hours later thinking holy I need to but couldn't physically move from the pills. I myself rolled over and went back to sleep. TLDR, my mom gave me some pills to sleep. Couldn't move from the pills, myself, and went back to sleep. Story 26. One time I tried to while playing online poker really late while my girlfriend was asleep. About half of the came out before I realized more was on its way out too. I caught that before it was too late and jumped up and started to run to the bathroom. I had headphones on and yanked my head to the left and pulled my tower over as I kicked a 25 pounds weight on the floor, broke my toe and then all over myself. Story 27. Last month I was on holiday in America. We go up to Hollywood to do the Stars home tour etc. I had a little much too Tabasco on my breakfast skillet and my stomach started to grumble outside Justin Timberlake's house. I soldiered through, but when we passed the House of Blues on the way back into Hollywood it all got a bit too much and it slipped out. The worst bit was we were staying in Long Beach, so had to suffer the drive back to there with my sodden underpants. Oh well, it happens to the best of us. Story 28. A couple weeks ago I woke with an upset tummy. My thinking was it's probably just gas or indigestion. While I'm in the kitchen with my brother getting ready for breakfast, I feel it coming on, so of course I'm going to let it out, but sadly it was not and I was wearing pajamas, and I went down my legs, and my brother was disgusted. Story 29. I was out on a run and was heading back home, made it to my doorstep but felt a little escape. I had the same thing happen in the middle of nowhere in Idaho, so I just squatted down and let it all out. Running is dangerous, my dude. Story 30. I have Crohn's disease. It would only affect my anus and rectum as soon as got there. My body tried to eject it like the hot lava it was. I had about a 5-minute window from first feeling of need to full-on pooping. Probably had an accident about 4 to 5 times a year, but since I got my anus removed, no worries. Story 31. This is a very real fear of mine. One of the main reasons I will never live in a high-rise. The idea of making it so close to your home only to have to wait for an elevator other people while you're holding it in terrifies me. Story 32. Car accident in 2003. My college friend T-boned a car crossing a dual-carriageway junction UK, when it shouldn't have tried, and spun into the central reservation. Thankfully everyone survived in both cars, although we were badly bruised and cut. All the airbags had gone off and the seatbelt pre-tensioners had fired. Took a massive jolt from the impact in my lower abdomen. I just remember I had a warm sensation in my jeans. I honestly thought that it was blood like my guts or had burst or something horrific. Nope, just shat myself, relief and concern all in one go. I was mortified. I was 19 at the time. I remember waddling into the back of the ambulance, telling the female paramedic and sheepishly sitting in the corner as we were taken to AE for checkover. They put my trousers in a clear bag and gave me a pair from, I can only assume, a giant. I'm a 32 waist and I'm pretty sure these were into the 50s for waist size. Calmly walked out of AE, once my parents arrived, with the trophy of my shitty trousers in a clear bag. Memories. Story 33. As a show of brotherly love between stores during the busiest time of the year, the local Whole Foods donated a bunch of chicken wings to the Best Buy I was working at. It was until the 7th wing that I realized the wings weren't cooked the whole way through. I thought I was going to be okay. I was wrong. During my last hour on shift on Black Friday, I attempted to let a little off the top, to relieve the pressure on my stomach, only to discover, to my horror, that I had painted the inside of my underwear a baby food green color and asked to be excused for the rest of the evening. Went to the bathroom, removed the underwear, threw it in the garbage, then drove home commando. It was a bad evening from then on out. 0-10, do not recommend. Story 34. Went to Cece's Pizza with a fam. My buddy and I go to Party City halfway through eating and get pills and other cheap pranks. Cue to me taking said pills. No problems eating. We head out and on the 30-minute drive home, farting non-stop. My mom is easygoing but she made me hang my butt out the window safety first. We finally get home. My body doesn't back down to the challenge of making as many stinky farts as it possibly can before quitting. So I think it's super funny to run around my friend in the computer chair, farting antagonize him. We're just having a good time, laughs all around. So I save up for maybe 2 minutes to get a nice one for him. I decide to run up beside his face, pull my boxers down, spread my cheeks, and unleash the balloon factory that are my insides. Though my farts have been dry all night, no question about it, but something evil and soupy happened in that 2 minutes, and I gave him a nice little butt sneeze right on the lower half of his face, froze, turned around to look, and ran straight to the shower. Yeah, we don't talk anymore. I'm sorry, Michael. Story 35. My mother-in-law shits herself regularly. In fact, it has become so common that she is no longer as shy about it as she should be and will announce it to everyone nearby. The first conversation she had with my parents was about how she herself the day before and was so humiliated. Then why are you telling them? Story 36. Really bad food poisoning. Needed to puke, and as I knelt by the altar of the porcelain god, offering my stomach contents to his glory, the vomit cramps in my stomach caused a geyser from the other end as well. Was not fun cleaning up, especially as I was already puking. Story 37. Apologize for the wall of text, but worth the read. So, this is a true story, one my kids love to retell to embarrass me. It is also a multi-bathroom tale of woe. One afternoon at lunch I went to hang out with my then wife where she worked at a convenience store. Being lunchtime, I decided to grab some nachos. I got the plate of chips and smothered them in cheese and then topped them off with a layer of jalapenos. I started to eat the nachos, one chip at a time, with a gob of cheese and one slice of jalapeno for each chip. For some reason, I couldn't get enough. They tasted so amazing. I had more chips than jalapenos, and quickly ran out. I went back to the condiment bar and loaded up more jalapenos, so that I could continue my 1 jalapeno per chip regiment. I finished the nachos and all in all, I would say that I probably consumed 6 to 7 complete jalapenos by the time I was done. Day goes on. Kids get out of school, wife gets off work, and off we go to dinner at the all-you-can-eat Chinese food place that had become our once-a-month custom. About halfway through dinner, my stomach started making a few little gurgling sounds. I brushed it off and continued my dinner. As we were about to leave, I suddenly felt my stomach knot up and it nearly took me to my knees. I told the wife and kids to give me a minute as I headed to the bathroom. Now the fun begins. I get into the bathroom and barely get my pants down in time to explode into the toilet. It was not for the faint of heart. The red-hot liquid fire that was shooting out of me like a flamethrower nearly brought me to tears. I finished up, so I thought, and headed out, grabbed the family, got in the minivan Ford Windstar and we headed home. 2 blocks away from the Chinese restaurant, and I realize that 1, I'm not done, and 2, I'm never going to make it home. I squeeze my butt cheeks and hold on for dear life as I drive onward. A few blocks up and I see my salvation, a Burger King restaurant. I pull in, slam the brakes, jump out, and butt cheek clench waddle as fast as humanly possible to the bathroom. I'd like to say at this point that I got my pants all the way down and got all the way seated on the toilet before I started shooting liquid hot magma out of my butt, but alas, I cannot. I essentially sprayed the toilet and the wall behind it with a coating of Satan's jelly. I nearly ran them out of toilet paper cleaning up after myself, and once again into the fray I went. Back out in the van, the wife and kids are chuckling at my predicament. As they realize that I'm suffering pretty badly, I get back behind the wheel exhausted, with my butt on absolute fire, and begin the trek home. As you may have guessed, I was still not done expelling whatever demons were in my bowels, and it only took a few more blocks before I was driving with my legs locked tight, working with all my might to clench my butt cheeks. I was locked so tight that the only thing that was touching the seat was the back of my legs on the bottom of the seat and my shoulder blades on the top of the seat. By now, my family is roaring in laughter, and the louder I screamed "It's not funny," the harder and harder they laughed. I was in excruciating pain, but for some reason, I convinced myself I could make it home. Oh, the best laid plans of mice and men. A few blocks from the house I could hold on no more, and little squirts of molten lava started seeping out of me. I get home, slam the van in park, jump out, shitting a little when I hit the ground, and start running into the house, shitting a little with each step. I get into the house, get to the bathroom, put my back to the toilet, rip my pants down and proceed to give the toilet and the wall behind it a nice new coating of what can only be described in the physical realm as pure evil. As I sat there trembling and crying in pain, my kids were outside the bathroom yelling, "Are you all right, Dad? Need us to come in and help you, Dad?" Yes, they are spawns of Satan himself. At the time, I did not see any humor in it, but now, reflecting back, I suppose I would be laughing as well. It must have been hilarious to see the look of pure terror on my face, see the sweat running down my forehead, and most of all, the butt clench run walk from the van to the Burger King and the van to the house. Anyway, I destroyed 3 bathrooms, and any respect my kids may have ever had for me in one evening. Edit TLDR suggested by a commenter, was so good. Thought I'd use a TLDR gorged on jalapenos and cheese, then gorged a Chinese buffet, 2 emergency dumps on the way home, shat self while running into house, shat all over third toilet. Family followed along laughing the entire time.